With me on the air, we have the legendary Dee Snider coming now with you. Bam.
Okay, get ready, people. This is going to be controversial.
Okay,
I've got a love-hate thing with the Beatles.
Really? I would hang out this place in Brooklyn, L'Amour's in Brooklyn. 16, I worked on a Mr. Softy ice cream truck.
If you lived in Queens, you know that song.
That song would picture driving, and I'll never forget. And here's something I'm going to share with you. So here I am by Coney Island. The guy, he dropped me off. I didn't have a driver's license. It looked like an episode of Goodfellas. He goes, all right, kid, you stay here. You do this, okay? I'm like, okay. And in my head, I had to count all the money. It was, no credit cards, cash. In the Mr. Softy. And what was it? I was playing Twisted Sister on the ice cream truck on cassette. You can't stop rock and roll.
Good man.
That's what I was doing. And to bring everybody back in time, I want to share a memory. So when I saw Dee on stage, you look like looking from an airplane. L'Amour's wasn't big, but I was in the back. And back then, God, you guys ended the show with It's Only Rock and Roll from the Stones. And I was like, oh my God, it blew my effing mind. It did. And this is a little picture of you guys rocking L'Amour's back in the day.
I used to say that when I introduced It's Only Rock and Roll, that when the Stones heard our version, they vomited in their mouths because it was nothing like the original. Because I say this is what's called It's Only Rock and Roll, people go, oh, but I like it, and then we have it's just like full punk metal, just screaming version. People are like, yeah. Yeah, we did that for years all over the world. That was a big finisher for us.
It was a huge finisher, and it made me want to throw away my Rolling Stones records after I heard that. It took my mind over, but there was a great time in life. But
I was told, listen to this little aside, that club, he's talking about a club called L'Amour. Of course, because he's from Brooklyn, they call it L'Amour's with an S, which it did not have. It was not L'Amour's, it was L'Amour. And it was originally like a strip club or a disco or something, and it went full hard heavy metal. It was awesome. But my bodyguard, who I had in the 80s, he used to be a bodyguard for Jagger. He told me Jagger came to L'Amour's to see Twisted Sister one night. He brought him down there. Jagger came because Jagger's a little guy. He's not so big, a little hat on, and a coat or whatever, and they came and saw Twisted Sister at L'Amour's. Mick Jagger. I think that's when he threw up in his mouth.
Wow. You didn't get a run-in with Jagger, huh? You didn't.
I had a run-in with Jagger at the Electric Lady Studios, which may have been why, now I think about it, he came to see us. Because the Stones, we were recording our first real demo with Eddie Kramer in Electric Lady. Eddie Kramer was the engineer for Jimi Hendrix, most notably, and produced Kiss Alive and things like Frampton Comes Alive, records like that. And the Stones were doing Some Girls in the studio down there. And Eddie had worked on Her Majesty's Satanic Request with the Stones. So he had introduced me to Jagger early, and at one point in one of those surreal moments of my life, we're listening to a playback of a track on our demo. Talking about Before Under the Blade and anything. And the door flies open, and Jagger comes dancing through in the classic chicken wing, and he dances around the front. And I'm sitting at the console. I watch Jagger go around the room. The music's playing, and back out the door. So that was my run-in with Mick Jagger, dancing through the room.
It's so surreal when you.
It was surreal. It was did Mick Jagger just come through the room? Oh my God, that was weird.
you got your new music out, and I'm going to do this because it's coming on vinyl. On the release date we have here is July 30th, correct? Is that when you?
But it's available on all formats. Pre-ordering though, there is vinyl, CDs. Cassettes. No, I'm kidding. But 8-track. We're offering it on 8-track. Kidding, but that would be great. Well, I want to be the first to bring an 8-track back.
Well, cassettes are making a comeback now.
I hear that. Yeah.
I have a friend of mine, and he goes on eBay. He goes crazy. He's buying cassettes. You might know him, Andrew Dice Clay. He's crazy with the Walkman, the big Panasonic. I know
Walkman. Dice. Really, he likes the Walkman, huh?
He likes the Walkman. He had me look on eBay, and he was hawking me Chinik and driving me crazy till he found the right. But they're like $300 now, Walkmans.
You see, I'm the weird like old guy who likes the new technology. Give me a gazillion songs on this, and a pair of earbuds. I'm like, that's magic. I mean, you would drink. Who wants to walk around? I remember walking around with boom boxes and stacks of. It was like insane. It was like a garage sale. Carrying you, like going out to the park with a garage sale with your. I mean, I had an 8-track playing boom box. It was insane.
I mean, but then it messed you up. It'd click over to it was a pain in the ass. The 8-track
in the middle of a song.
In the middle of a song,
they end the song. That's insane. And then, of course, it would always cause problems. You couldn't. After a while, they would kind of flop, and you had to put a bent matchbook cover in there just to keep it playing right. Otherwise, it was all warped.
You're trying to learn to play guitar. What a nightmare! What a nightmare! The wrong device.
You can't. You had to go completely around the entire album to get back to the song. Well, you had 4 quadrants on an 8-track, so you could go to the quadrant, but you had to loop the entire quadrant to get to the song you wanted to hear. It was ridiculous.
Think about listening to an album, you love the song, and then you had to hear the shitty songs through that, huh?
Yeah, well, that's why when you got an album like Queen 2, which is the least popular Queen album. I'm a day one Queen fan. That's like one of my favorite albums of all time, and that one would be because I could listen beginning to end. There was no wrong quadrant on my Queen 2 8-track, except for when it broke in the middle of one of the Brian May's guitar solos, just because it would fade out slightly, click over, and then fade back in again.
Tell me, give me your 5 vinyl must albums that you got to have.
This is a vinyl schminal. I don't care what they're on. Somebody just asked me this the other day, and I didn't realize, because I always thought, I know my choices. But it was literally Sophie's choice. I mean, that was like picking amongst your children, and then when you published it, I think Louder or one of those online, they published it, and people were going, "How could you leave out?" And you feel like I had to choose. Motorhead had to go. I'm sorry. It was like it was that kind of thing and I kind of wound up going chronologically, and because I said, well. It was really, Paul Revere and the Raiders that got me off. Like they were sort of edgier than the other bands. So songs like Kicks and Hungry, there was sex in there, and there was drugs. And this was the competition for the Monkees, who were just singing about being a monkey. So I go with, the Paul Revere and the Raiders' greatest hits. But then I moved on and I said, okay, well, I got to get Slade in there. Because without Slade, there would not be the Twisted Sister anthems. They were so Slade influenced and inspired. So I put Sladist. Again, a cheat because it's the greatest hits record. Also cheating are live albums because they're kind of greatest hits. But you didn't say I couldn't pick them. Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous. No. That's one that it's a double album. You could go for days. Sex Pistols, never mind the bollocks. Punk is a major influence in Twisted Sister in my life, and again you wouldn't have. We're not going to take it if that's all downstroke. That's all punk influence stuff right there. And then I mentioned Queen 2. Queen 2, they don't play anything from Queen 2 anymore. It was a utter failure for the band. After Queen 1, they got a little bit of love. Queen 2 came out and it just tanked. So they came back with Sheer Heart Attack, which had Killer Queen, and then they were off to the races. But Queen 2 is one of my faves.
Queen 2. Yeah. No Beatles, huh? You didn't mention any Beatles in the list.
See,
I might get a click now from this. Dee Snider mentioned no Beatles. Get him.
Yeah, it's weird. I've got this. Okay, get ready, people. This is going to be controversial. Okay, I've got a love-hate thing with the Beatles.
Really? Tell me.
The Beatles were the band. They were the band that launched me. I mean, the night they were on, the day after they were on Ed Sullivan, because I never saw, my father banned television in our house. So I only heard about the Beatles at the bus stop, and just hearing about them, and on that moment when I heard about the Beatles, everybody was screaming. I said, I'm going to be a Beatle. And from that point on, that was my life's mission. So, and the first album I owned, Hard Day's Night, and a Beatles fan, loved the Beatles. But at some point, I kind of moved on, and now it's just like, I don't know. I mean, amazing songwriters, yes. Oh, this is going to get people very upset, and all those things. But I somehow feel that they were they were given the opportunity to experiment and do all kinds of things, any and everything they wanted. And those times they were trapped in rooms and lived in studios. The four of those guys were on top of each other endlessly. They would just sit in rooms, and they were allowed to really evolve and create. And anything they created was put to tape and recorded and embellished. And so they were important to me and they launched me, but it's the subsequent bands that really made me the individual. The Beatles didn't make me an individual. The Beatles made me a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
There was a gazillion bands who were launched by the Beatles.
Yeah.
And we all owe them a debt. And I would wet myself if I met Paul McCartney, probably, or Ringo for that matter, because I was a Ringo guy. But that said, once I was off to the races, they weren't the band that made Dee Snider and gave me life in the sense of who I would be in the music world. No Beatles influence in anything you hear on any of my music in my records.
The price, because it was such a mellow song for Twisted Sister, about the ballad, which was one of my favorites, and because of the melody, I feel a little Beatle-y.
Well, this melody, you know what? I also think it's that everybody's like Beatle crazy, and I'm surrounded in Twisted Sister with JJ and Eddie and Mark and now Mike Portnoy, and they'll sit there and my roadies talking Beatles and deep cuts, and I had a roommate who would listen to all the mono records one speaker at a time because they were split to stereo.
Yeah.
So he would endlessly listen to Beatles, but only one channel, one side. So you just hear, love me do. I love you. And like, where's the rest of the song? Oh, it's on the other side. I'm just listening to George now. I'm like, oh, please. You guys are killing me. They were brilliant. They were music. They were geniuses. But, it's like dissecting it. And they don't even dissect it. They sold their catalog in 1974 for $10 million. They sold their catalog. Why do you think they sold their catalog? Because to them, it was just a bunch of old stuff. And somebody offered them $10 million. Of course, they realized later that was worth a lot more. But because to them, they were just a band. They were a bunch of guys writing songs, and they were more interested in what they were working on now than they were about this old stuff. That's why they sold their entire catalog.
Totally, you're totally right.
I don't. People that have deified them, they don't deify themselves.
Yeah. I think those people don't want the story to end. You know what I mean? They just want to see, well, what other picture, or maybe there's some other music out there that's going to come out. They don't want it to end. I'm sure there's like that with the Twisted Sister fans out there. They don't want that. What more can we get? It's squeezing a lemon. I want every drop.
Well, I mean, there's the soundtrack of your lives mentality, and it's something we all deal with all the time. There are many, many people who, this was the music of their youth. Yeah. And forever it will mean all that to them. And I'm so forward. I'm so much more interested in talking about what I'm working on now than what I did. And I'm proud of the past, but to talk about, I'd rather say, look, I got a new album that's not even out yet. It's not even out yet. And this stuff is like, to me, it's like so important. It's what I care about and focused on. I wrote my first fictional novel. It's not even published yet, and it's new. It's exciting to me. It's the future, and I'm always trying to move forward. I'm not trying to be one of those guys who lives in the past. VH1 made a movie, and they made like what do they call that? Where it's like, it's not a documentary. It's kind of what they did with Motley Crue, where they have actors playing it, and it was called Warning Parental Advisory, but they called it a comedy of censorship. And I actually played myself in that movie, which was the weirdest experience because I walked onto the set wearing the clothes I wore the day I went there, and the place, and everybody else is an actor, and they froze. And everybody just starts to turn and look in like amazement. And I said, this is what it probably would have felt if an actual Tyrannosaurus walked onto the set of Jurassic Park. And like an actual Tyrannosaurus walked out there and said, "Hey, I was there in the Paleozoic era. I was there in the Metallizoic era." And it was like the weirdest experience to be in a movie where I played myself about something, and it wasn't really true. They had because they didn't know the behind the scenes stuff, so they fictionalized everything except for my script. You know what I said. But so yeah, I think I've done a lot of interviews. There's documentaries and things like that in the makings, but it's a movie in and of itself, probably a real movie.
So when you were doing this and reading the script, did you have a hard? Were you like reading it and then going, well, now I don't feel like myself. Now this is really not, trying to get the part down.
No. Oh, you mean in the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they had a whole thing where me, Frank, and John Denver like met for the first time. Never happened. It was a whole like interaction with me and John Denver's like all freaked out because I'm like so loud and in his face. And I never met John, to my regret, because he was the strongest voice there that day, because he was the one they didn't expect to be on the side of rock and roll. Those senators were sure he was just coming from NASA, where he was being taught to being the first musician in space. He had the Christmas specials and he was Mom and Apple Pie, John Denver. They did not expect him to say, "I am against censorship in all its forms." And so me and Frank were like cheering, because we were like concerned about where he would stand. So I never got to shake John's hand. Me and Frank hung out back in the backstage. It was somebody's office. And there's photos of us back there, and we talked and stuff like that. And it was great to meet a hero of mine. And it was really weird to have him bring Diva and Amit, his two kids. He goes, "Dee, do you mind meeting my kids? They're big fans of Twisted Sister." So it was like, those are kind of the coolest things. I mean, meeting my heroes' kids who viewed me as a hero. Like Jason Bonham, Julian Lennon. Talk about the Beatles. Julian Lennon was a big Twisted Sister fan. I remember meeting Geezer Butler, brought his son back from Black Sabbath to meet us, and I just ran into a picture of that. So I mean, that's really something when you're a hero to your heroes' kids. It's kind of cool.
It is. It's really cool, and especially meeting Dee Snider. I mean, I've been to the Twisted Sister shows, and until this day, Dee, you just take that stage, you command it, you take it over. There's certain people that do that. There's the Elvises that do that. Just they take over. And all
right, now it's so funny. You're getting weird stories.
No, I'm not getting weird.
No. You're bringing out stories that I never say, and I love that.
Okay.
It's a great change of pace. So you talk about Elvis. I was in a project called Monster Circus in Vegas. It was like an all-star band review with dancers and all this stuff, and we were performing at the Hilton on the Elvis Presley stage, the stage that he performed on in all those years. And we were on late evening. Barry Manilow was doing a residency there. He was on early evening, the Fanilows, and Barry comes to see the show. When I'm on stage, I'm told first, they come back and say, Barry was out in the aisle dancing and urging everybody to stand up. I'm like, really? And all of a sudden the door flies open and Barry Manilow comes walking in, walks straight at me, grabs me by the head and kisses me, but not a weird kiss. It was like one of those. And he goes, 3 people have owned that stage in history. Elvis, and I don't know who else he said, and you owned the Elvis Presley stage. And it was incredibly high praise, but it's just weird that you would mention Elvis in the same. Yeah.
Well, it's because you just lit up the stage when seeing it. And then I actually did see you perform in Vegas. I was like, wow, this guy has not lost. He just takes over. And it's a healthy living lifestyle you live in. You look great. You look like $1 million. Okay. Now let's talk about the important things that you got here. Cause I know we have time.
We're good until the top of the hour. We got 5 more minutes.
Oh, we have 5 more minutes. Okay, let's talk about the new music that's coming out, my friend. Okay, right here. Everybody, Dee Snider, Leave a Scar. That's coming out on the 30th of July, but you could pre-order it now. Everything, all the links are down below. Okay, and there's my little one right behind me. Say hi, Brooklyn. All righty.
Hey, Brooklyn, what's up?
So, tell us about the new music. I saw you have 2 videos out right now.
In the 90s, I stopped writing. After Widowmaker, I stopped writing and creating music. I felt like, even though I love metal and I've loved the changes metal's been through, and I'm to this day, thanks to my kids especially, supporter of the changes in metal, and I go to see bands, and I love new stuff. I just felt like I had overstayed my welcome, pretty much because I was told in some reviews, "You've overstayed your welcome." Yeah. So and then the grunge thing came in. Nobody was buying what I was selling, and I didn't hate grunge. I liked what was going on. I thought the changes were healthy, but still, I just stopped creating music. Jamie Josta, I'm on his podcast. He challenges me to do a real metal record. And I said, look, I love metal. I love new metal. I said, but I just don't know where I fit. He goes, I know where you fit. I'll produce, and everybody in the community is going to come to this party. And it was unbelievably outpouring. People from Lamb of God, Killswitch Engage, Disturbed, All That Remains. The people just came, different artists, different bands. They contributed, they wrote, they performed. And I put out an album called For the Love of Metal a few years ago. Went in the top 20 on the Billboard charts. Wow. What #1 metal album in the world? Dee Snider in his 60s. And Jamie said, Dee, it's just you. I've seen you perform. Your voice is strong as ever. You are one of those people. You need to be a part of what's going on today. So after that success of that record, I thought I was done. But when the world went crazy in 2020 between the pandemic and the political turmoil, not just in the U.S., around the globe, there's craziness going on. I said, I need to put another record out, and now I'm ready to be a contributor. And on the new album with Jamie Josta and Charlie Belmore, my guitar player, we wrote the album. And so it's the first time I've been writing again since the 90s, in 25 years. But really it's because, just like We're Not Going to Take It needed to be said, this new album is Leave a Scar, is filled with songs that need to be said at this time, at this place and time.
Yeah, well, man, we do need that. We need that message to be heard, because it's crazy times right now, my friend. How about writing this record during this past year? We're all on lockdown. We're not in a room with each other. Did you do it? You did it Zoom? How did you do the writing on this whole thing?
I've always written, like with Twisted, I wrote everything by myself, and I was very closeted, not in a gay way, not that there's anything wrong with it, but just like I'd go and be alone, and I would never share or open up. When I got to Desperado and Widowmaker, I learned how to write with people, and the music was stronger for it because I'm not a guitar player. So got better riffs and cooler riffs. So but it's still very much like, you know, what Charlie would say, I got this riff. I go, oh, I really like that. And Jamie will give me an idea, but it's very, then I go off and then I put my notes and I bring my ideas to them. So there's not a real lot of like in the room, like back and forth kind of stuff. It's like each person sharing their ideas and then people going and listening to it and then finally pulling it all together. But this song, you know, one of the big inspirations was on social media. I'm very outspoken on social media, and I believe that right now we're in a world where the extremists on the left and the right are the loudest voices in the room. They're bullying minorities, and they are asserting their agendas and forcing the vast majority. Fact, 70% of the world is more centrist. Yeah, we lean left. Yeah, we lean right. But we're more in the middle. We're not on the extreme edges. But those are the loudest voices. And they think because they got 10,000 people in their Facebook group, they're a movement. Let me tell you something. 10,000 people is a fucking parade. There's 77 billion people in the world. 10,000 is nothing. Shut up. Shut up and do your parade. You know, wave your flag and just shut up. Meanwhile, so I'm railing, and somebody said, Dee, we don't all have a platform like you. We all don't have your voice. What are we supposed to do? I said, get behind me. I got the flag. Let's go. So I'm just trying to say the time for the middle saying, I'm sure things will work out. I trust it'll be okay. It usually comes back to the middle. How's that working for you so far? Look at the world. It's crumbling. Okay, in my view, it's crumbling. It's time for the majority to speak up, have a voice. One of my songs called Stand, where the line Leave a Scar is from. Don't leave your mark. Leave a scar. Okay, time for the middle to stand up, take back control. This is our bus. We'll drive it, not you idiots. Go in the back where you belong.
That's it. Amen.
But I have no opinion. But I've got no opinion.
You know what? I can't say it better than you. And listening to you talk, because you know, I have older kids. I'm 54. I have a 5-year-old, and I'm thinking about tomorrow. And it makes you, you know, when you're always going to think, but when you have the little ones in the future, it drives you fucking
Oh
crazy,
my
man.
God. And you know what? And the thing is, that's one of the, and we got to wrap this up, but
Okay.
that was one of the realizations when I got, it's funny, people, you think, you know, what does an email matter? What does a letter matter? What does a tweet matter? If it's the right moment to the right person, it could change the world. And that person's texting me made me realize, just because my life is great, dude, I'm living happily ever after. Okay, I got, with even the world could come apart at the seams. I got a house on the beach in Belize, and I'll just watch the mushroom cloud. You know, I mean, I'm fine. But I am that voice. I am that person. I've been given this job by all these people for decades, or maybe I took the job, but I'm the we're not going to take it guy. Just because I'm okay doesn't mean everybody else doesn't need someone to represent them. So I'm back. I'm louder than ever. This record is the heaviest thing I ever made, and it's a sledgehammer. Old people, it's the fountain of youth. I trust me. People are, you look so good. It's metal. That's what's keeping me young. And it's also, don't get mellower with age. Get harder and heavier with age. Okay.
I can't say it. Right here, pre-order, leave a scar. All the descriptions, the links are going to be there. You click on it, you people, you can get it now. But before you leave, D, this is the hashtag for 2021 right there. Hashtag you can't stop rock and roll 2021. I got to put that there, baby.
And I can't wait to sing that live again with meaning that I never thought it would have. When I wrote it, I was singing about teachers and parents and bosses, and I didn't think there was actually something would stop rock and roll for over a year. But you can't stop it forever, and we'll be back.
You'll be back. D, I hope I could get you back on the show again. There's a lot more I want to talk to you about, my friend.
I got books coming out. I'm directing
That's what I want to talk about.
I'm directing my first movie. So when all this stuff gets released, we'll talk.
I have a book club of the month where I do all these stories with books, so I got to bring you on. D, thank you for your time, my friend.
Take care. Great time.
All right, brother. Thank you,
bye-bye.
man. All right, bye-bye, D. Right there, Dee Snider, Leave a Scar. Also, if you guys are looking for some good vinyl, this is what the box, if you pre-order now, check out what you get. The wooden box set, the jewel case, the 7-inch single, you get a leather wristband, a logo pin. I'll put it in there, right? All there for you now. All righty, everybody? Stuff for me. I love you all. Mwah. Bam, we're out of here.